Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Marlene. I'm in the backseat of my car because it's nice out there. Just wanted to film a video, but anyways, let's get started. Today's video is going to be on the process of ascension for negative entities and what are negative entities like. So first I'm gonna briefly explain on how they are in the third density and then how they go into each density and give some examples of like actual people so we can understand them. Bra makes a lot of emphasis on densities because each density, let's remember, it's from a previous video, it's about lessons. So each density has its own lesson. We are currently transitioning from the third density onto the fourth density, and the lesson on fourth density is of love, whereas here on third density, it's of making a decision. So the decision we have to make is whether if we're gonna polarize positive or if we're gonna polarize negative. And what this means is the polarizing positive means you're doing self service to others, whereas polarizing negative is polarizing service to self. So very narcissistic, ego based, selfish type of behavior to be able to polarize negative. And why we are on this third density, and mm, it's because like the creator wanted to know itself, right? So um, third density is the only density that has the veil of oblivion, so you don't remember that you are on this journey of polarizing. So that leaves you with your soul organically is supposed to choose which path you're going to take, the path of serving to others or the path of serving yourself. And the creator wanted to be as like freely organic, like which one are you attracted towards more. From that on, like there's no way of like not deciding. So or like you keep going up to the next densities. So Earth is like a school. So uh, 3D here is the only density where we have the ego, where we have to pretty much um, have catalysts, either positive or negative, so that we can make that decision. Ra gives a percentage of how to be polarized positive. You have to be at least 51% positive, and to be polarized negative you have to be at least 95% polarized negative. And these percentages you can see to polarize positive, it could be like easier, but Ra explains that it's almost equally as like hard or takes the same amount of effort to polarize positive than it takes to polarize negative, because there's this other percentage, the 49 to like 6%, where it's like a neutral, where it's mostly like ignorance because you don't really choose like a side. A negative entity will be considered one that is 95% polarized negative, so it's like really, really hard as well. So someone that right now will be on their way to a fourth density polarized negative will be somebody that's very narcissistic, malevolent, evil, pretty much. Like you will have to do a lot of evil things to be able to polarize negative, and to be able to continue polarizing negative, you'll have to take other people's free will, because by them not having their free will, you are taking over them. You're having power over somebody else's soul or life, and this is how they keep continuing to polarize negative. So negative entities are not ignorant to the truth. They know that everything is one, so like the law of one, but they're still attracted to the separation. They are very like competitive. They will always want to be in power of some sort, so they'll tend to like manipulate, lie, steal like all kinds of things just so that it can be up there in power. So if you think about this dynamic, it can look like the Ponzi scheme, like the pyramid, where there's always somebody at the top, and it's illegal. It's like fraud. Somebody at the top is always just earning everything, like the money, the status, whatever. Whereas the people at the bottom is like they're giving it all and like they never get anything. And this pyramid scheme, it's a negative um like system. So it takes a lot for this like structure to be stable, because again they have to do all this like loopholes in order to be able to sustain that. And eventually it always comes down, because because the negative entities always try to take over onto the next person, so that's a way for them to take power. So they always like destroy the person on the top so that they can be at the top. And because all these stealing of energy and that, they kind of are considered like energy vampires, and they go onto the fourth density. So when a negative entity tries to go to the fourth density, their heart chakra, the way they learn that lesson is of like selfishness. Like it's not actual love. Like you can see it like in a spectrum. Like this is love, and it will be like right the opposite. So um, they think like loving yourself, being narcissistic, like to the extreme, right? It's it's how it's supposed to be, like playing almost like God, taking others people free will. And if you did like a energetic reading on their chakras, their heart chakra will almost be like turned off. Like they don't emit any sort of energy. It's like your heart chakra is your drive, because it's your connection with God, with source. So that's how you create, you live. Whereas theirs is like almost turned off, so they have to steal other people's energy, and in order to like continue, because they're unable to do that for themselves. So that's why they can be like energy vampires, where they tend to steal like other people's energies. And when it comes to the fourth density or even third density, um because Mother Earth is now on its way to a fourth density polarized positive, any entity that tries to come in polarized negative, it's actually like they can't, because um, you can say that they have to go to like a different school, or like if they don't learn the lesson, they will go to different like sphere, because or planet, because here Earth, like it's already too late to be doing that, or like we're on that process. So it's like little by little. For them, a fourth density planet polarized negative will look like people that are like everybody's like narcissists, everybody's into themselves, everybody's just serving themselves. It will be a lot of like chaos and spiritual atrophy, like they wouldn't actually know what real love is. And it's all like inverted, so they don't see love as something to understand. Like they don't care, like it's something like silly that they don't want to be part of. And they go to fifth density, um my guess is like it's very narrow path for, or yeah, like very little negative entities on fifth density. But when they do reach that density, because that density is of like your fifth chakra, which is in, they call like the hermit density, because you're like by yourself a lot, just gaining wisdom, understanding. You understand love, but you also understand like self-worth, and like that balance of like giving but not to the extreme of you becoming like a martyr. So, and you understand also like you're God, but you're also part of like everything. So a negative entity what they will think is, they think that they're God, but they won't see themselves as a whole. They will think like only them, like they're God, and whatever they create or whatever, like they have power over that. Like there's nothing that it's not out of their way. Like they always want to make it to serve themselves. That's why it's called service to self. And they see everything again as a competition, like who can be better, just winning, trying to go to the top. And once they reach to sixth density, because sixth density is that density of balance where you balance love and light. So it could be like love and wisdom. They actually can really be there for, obviously I don't know the time because we're talking about eternity, so there's no time or space. So very, like, they don't last long because all that chaos or all that spiritual entropy that they carry, they cannot live with that like frequency. They can't deny love, which is the other part, to be balanced, to exist on that sixth density. So they pretty much like die. Like it's not a physical death, it's like an ego death, right? Because we're talking about like spiritual. So they die. And on sixth density, because it's of a memory social complex, that's where Ra is from. They don't see the negative entities with like hate or anything. It's like they understand, like they forgive them, and they understand they're part of something that is like needed to be able to polarize like more positive or more negative. Since they're like forgiving and reunited as one, now they can move to seventh density. But it's all a memory, a social memory complex. It's not just one polarized, like completely positive. Like there's like, I think it was like 90% and 10%. Like there's a balance. The sixth density is all of balance. Now a few examples of a negative entities. You will think it will be someone like Hitler. So they ask on the sessions, they ask Ra about Hitler, and Hitler apparently wasn't polarized negative because on his mind, on his um, soul, I guess, he was thinking that he was doing a service to his country, like he was actually helping. So I guess you can say ignorance is bliss. So that's why he didn't go to like a, or like he did go to another sphere, but it's like he's learning like the same lessons. Like he's not on that actual path of negative polarity. So they ask who actually went on like a negative path, and they gave the name of this Mongol empire named Genghis Khan, who apparently did a lot of evil things. Same with Rasputin. So Khan apparently reincarnated on a fourth density planet, polarized negative. So like the planet is negative, which apparently he works as a inspector, so someone that I guess checks on the spaceships or something, like what comes in and out. And he's in the galaxies or like the star system named Orion. And Ra explains that this system, this is what I find like very interesting, because he says that a lot of negative entities live in like the Orion um, galaxies. So because it's polarized negatives, they somehow try to find ways to send like, like people here to Earth to be able to, because they understand that in order to keep polarizing negative, they have to like take others, right? So they have to play out with the people that are polarized positive so that they can keep polarizing negative. So they have to send people where there's like people with like with their free will, you know. So like when these negative entities reach, some examples like how they will reach Earth sometimes will be, apparently when Moses was given the Ten Commandments, there was a negative entity that interfered when they were doing like that channeling. So Moses thought that he was speaking to God. So I think like it was Jeshua, and he was being given like this Ten Commandments, but in reality, those Ten Commandments came from a negative entity, because a negative entity is always trying to control. Like they tell you what to do, whereas a positive entity doesn't really bend down for your like your free will. Like they don't want to interfere at all. Like they want you to make the choice, right? So apparently, when Moses died and he went on to his next sphere, like density, he was very, I guess, like sad, you could say, because he didn't know he got tricked during that channeling, and that in a way he gave um, the power to the church to be able for the church to like control people by using those commandments, saying like, hey, I got these commandments from God, so this is what we have to do, and build churches and adore God. And because again, let's remember the negative entities always try to gain something from others. So like admiration, you know, idolization, enslaving people throughout like ideologies that sometimes are against like themselves, but they don't see it, because that's why I guess in the Bible, like the Old Testament, God is seen like an evil God, because of, if it says something like, if you don't do this, if you don't obey, or like, you shall not do this, you shall not that, and if you don't, like, you're going to hell. Like, you know what I mean? Like he was very, very like evil, um depicted like very evil on the like the Old Testament. Negative entities tend to do that. Like they're very intelligent. They tend to trick and play as somebody else. Like actually, if you done any astral projecting, you sometimes see these entities, and they can even like disguise themselves as like, let's say, an angel, but they're actually evil. And if you don't know how to like read, or how to, I guess, like be in the astral, like they can trick you, you know, into believing like they're telling you something, when in reality they're just trying to steal like your energy. Because during the sessions, they ask Ra about publishing the book, and they don't even tell like the team to publish it. Like they literally leave it up to them if they want to publish it or not, and what kind of cover they want to use for the book. So they don't interfere. They're very like clear, and in a way the team tries to like really push Raw to like give us like an actual answer, but they're like very general, like we can't tell you, whereas a negative entity wouldn't even um you know, like they will use that as like, okay, do this, do that, using people's free will, because that's how they keep polarizing negative. mm, and also Ra explains later on like there's no God that is evil. Like the non-duality thing is actually like true. Like up there in the 6-7 density, there's no such thing as evil. Everything is good. But you have to remember we're still in third density, so there is evil here. Like even though you will think like, oh, everything happens to me for a reason, and it's all good, like no. There's evil here. Ra is a civilization from sixth density that's polarized positive. That was a civilization from Venus, and they're still trying to help Earth and other galaxies. And same thing with the Orion group. Like they have their own, I guess, agenda of negative plans. So they also try to interfere here on earth. And how they'll do this is like they'll send people certain like ideologies, certain things, and people that are very easy to manipulate. And let's not judge like, oh, this person was very easy to fall for that. Like, we all have our own battles, right? But these people usually tend to play with dark spirits or like black magic. And once they get with like a negative entity, they will like exchange, like, okay, I'll give you power, fame, you know what I mean? In order, like, making a pact in exchange for like their soul. And like, this is how you can see like the puppets here on earth just playing out the Orion's group agenda. And that's how they keep gaining more like free will and making people believe like get more fans or get more people believe in this, or taking people's free will so that they can keep polarizing negative. So that's how it works. So yeah, I hope you understand this video. I know it's a bit complex to understand, but yeah, I hope I I did a good job. I'm struggling a little bit with my accent still, so yeah. Hope you guys, sorry. Hope you guys have a good day, and I'll see you in my next video. Oh, I forgot to add also on the sixth density, that's where your higher self is at, right? Because it's a social memory complex. So there's no such thing as having a higher self that it's of a sixth density that's polarized negative. Like, doesn't exist.